Okay, we are live, letting people in through the waiting room. Awesome, awesome. Okay, people are starting to roll in now. Welcome to our very first Holistic Oklahoma live virtual webinar here tonight. This is exciting. Tonight we've got Joanna Francisco. Before I share about what we're talking about tonight, let me just see here, make sure everyone's okay coming in. We're going to be using the chat function for those of you who are on live tonight. We're recording it for the replay. So as we go through, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. But just as we're about to get started now, just comment, maybe say hi if you can hear me. That helps me with my tech anxiety. Drop a comment and let us know if where you're viewing from and what you're hoping to learn tonight, what you're most excited about tonight. And that's going to help us to make sure that we get your questions answered and craft it in a way that's serving you best. So if you're new to Zoom, I've learned so much on Zoom recently. There's a little chat button at the bottom if you're on a desktop. I have no idea where it is on your phone, but it might be like a little 3-dot button or a more button. And then you can just tap on the chat, and then you should see at the bottom where you can type. So anything that's in the chat, people will be able to see and we'll be able to answer your questions later. So for those of you who haven't met me yet, my name's Andrea Reed. I founded the Oklahoma Center for Wellness nonprofit in 2010. And the purpose of our nonprofit organization is to educate people on finding resources. We're looking to shorten the length of time it takes for you to find your health and wellness answers, especially if you've been looking for a long time, especially if you're not getting answers from your primary sources of information. So we have recently launched this new community in school on the school platform. And if you're here watching this video, you're in our school community. Thank you for being here and taking a leap into some new app and doing that, following the steps. We are going to be filling this platform with so much content for you that you're not even going to need to go to Google for this kind of stuff anymore. They're a pharmaceutical company anyway. So, and other things. So without further ado, if you have any questions about the organization that I founded and the amazing team that we are growing over there, you can visit holisticoklahoma.com. I will be adding in links as we go through the night for resources for you, and then they'll all be available in the replay directly under this video. So tonight we have the amazing, talented Joanna Francisco talking about, her title for the talk tonight is Applying Universal Principles of Ancestral Diets to Today's Modern Family while getting the most nutrient density for your dollar. I'm intrigued already. Okay. So Joanna, I love this so much. Joanna challenges the misconception that kitchen work is menial and emphasizes the immense power and impact that the kitchen holds for families and communities by applying the principles of ancestral diets and sourcing local nutrient-dense foods. Individuals can improve their health, support their local economy, and reduce food waste. She is encouraging families to take back their power by choosing traditional sustainable food practices that respect animals, farmers, our humanity, and the environment. And Joanna's been a great supporter of our organization with vendor booths at the Holistic Wellness event each year. So we're excited to share this topic tonight and a little bit about Joanna, and then I'm going to let her take it away. Joanna Francisco is a naturopath and GAPS coach dedicated to helping clients restore gut health through ancestral dietary principles and non-invasive therapies. The guiding principles of her practice is that the foundation of both health and illness lies in the gut, and that everything in creation is energy. Joanna believes that the cure is in the kitchen and has found her niche in leading group and private classes on fermentation, cultivating raw dairy, cooking meat stock, and other traditional healing food preparations. As the chapter lead of the Weston A. Price Foundation in Tulsa, she advocates for locally sourced, nutrient-dense, properly raised foods and happily connects with members of the community with a network of farmers across the area. Joanna and her husband, Jeff, are proud to call Tulsa home. where they enjoy time with their grown children and ever expanding family. So I'm going to put myself on mute, and y'all are here to hear Joanna. Take it away.
Okay, ready? Yeah. Okay, so before I start my Weston A. Price presentation, I wanted to just tell you personal things about myself, why I'm doing this in the first place, and what my passion is. So for the past couple of decades, I've been aware of the Weston A. Price Foundation. Our family drank raw milk growing up. Our kids did, not me, my kids did. I grew up on Pop-Tarts. We bought our meat from local farmers. We got chickens. We have a big garden. So we were doing all those things. But things were ticking along just fine. And then there was this great worldwide disruption back in 2020, you guys might remember. And there was a lot of fear at that time and a lot of just chaos, remember? And one of the main, there were things that I was not scared about. I'm not going to mention what that was, but there was something that I was disturbed by, and that was the way the supply chain was being affected, and food distribution, food production, the whole centralization of our food system. Even though I personally wasn't participating very much in that, it doesn't matter. If you're in a city with a lot of hungry people, you're going to be in trouble. So it's in my best interest for everybody to have this information. And it's in all of our best interest for us all to have this information, because we want to be self-sustaining, or I shouldn't say self-sustaining because it's not us personally necessarily, but it's in our community. So we need our community to be self-sustaining. Okay, so that was 2020. At that point, I reached out to the Weston A. Price Foundation to see if there's a chapter, and there used to be one, and I'm friends with the person who used to be the chapter leader for 15 years, but she had taken off, and so that spot was open, so I applied for it and got it and became the chapter leader in 2021. And there's one more thing about 2020 and 2021 that I want to mention, and that was and about decentralization of the institution. So this other institution is health and wellness, or healthcare. You guys might have too. I have friends, a handful of friends who personally were affected by being shut out of the institutional medical world, weren't able to get access, or had strange things happen because they were not willing to jump through certain hoops. So at that point, I decided, well, I'm going to try something else too. And that's when I studied with Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride and became a GAPS coach. And because, like Andrea mentioned in the intro, I do believe that the cure is in the kitchen, that health and illness originates in the gut. And so I just wanted to be a part of helping people find food, and find good food in their community, and to be able to heal without having to go to these corporations or institutions such as hospitals or medical companies affiliated with insurance, things like that. Too many hoops to jump through. Another thing that happened in 2020 was my husband and we used to go out to eat all the time. That, just like everybody else, we would probably go at least once a week. And that stopped. Again, it was the hoops we were not willing to jump through. And what we found was that we were eating like kings at our house. And I think we were saving money, even though we would spend, at first it was shocking, we're spending this much on a chicken, but I'll tell you later how it actually is economical. But we were eating very well, feeling really good. And we were, instead of putting the money into such and such restaurant that orders from a distributor, we were putting our money into the pocket of farmers that we know by name. So I guess that's about all about, oh, no. Here's what I want to tell you. Because of my GAPS work, and all of this kind of comes together, I spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And one time I was just in the kitchen. I'm usually listening to a podcast or something, but this time I was just daydreaming and thinking about how, I'm pouring my love into this meal here that I'm making for this person. And you know, I was just feeling really good about it and like thinking, oh, I found the chicken for this and I'm putting it together and it's, you know, will they feel the love, you know? And it made me think about my mom. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and my mom, she liked to cook and all, but this was the messaging at that time to mothers. And it just all boils down to convenience, or boiled down to convenience for them. And you know, you can work all day, come home and prepare a meal for your kids. Here's your Ore-Ida tater tots, here's your frozen dinner, and there's your microwave. And it was just convenience driven in my childhood, 70s and 80s. And just to contrast that with how I was feeling the day I thought of this was, my mom often will talk about that time in her life, how it was just a lie. They weren't really liberated from anything. And what I was thinking is, what happened if people kind of fell into that, they got liberated right out of their place of power. And I'm just really speaking to women, mothers right now, and I know that this could apply to men too, but as women, we have a lot of power in our kitchen. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. That's my passion. So I'm going to put on my glasses so I can read my notes and share my screen. And I am very scared to start pushing buttons here, but we'll do it. Oops. Am I sharing my screen?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
Great.
So yes, I want to talk about applying the principles, universal principles of ancestral diets to today's modern families while getting the most nutrient density for your dollar. Okay. I think the reason why I wanted to title it that way, even though it's kind of lengthy, is because I think there is an idea that eating this way is expensive. And I'm not going to lie, it's not cheap, but it's just different. So it's just rearranging your finances. It's not, in the long run, my husband and I don't believe it costs us more to eat this way. We think we actually save money, even though we might pay more for like a chicken instead of a rotisserie chicken at Walmart. You know, we might be paying 3 times that price for one that I cook myself. But I'm good. This is what I want to talk to you about, how you actually can save money. So I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. Okay. First of all, like I mentioned, I'm the Tulsa chapter leader for Weston A. Price. And this is the logo for the Weston A. Price Foundation. And I just want to explain what this is. You see, it's a globe, and a globe. And what you'll pick up on this as I tell more about Dr. Price and his studies. But the first globe is like the shape of a human face before Western or modernized foods came into the picture. The middle one is what happens to the human face. It narrows. There's a lot more that goes on, but that is representing a more narrow face. The bone structure is affected by nutrition. And then the last globe is what our hope is for the future, that people will, you know, we've got to really do a big job educating people about nutrition in order to achieve that, but it's a worthy goal. So the Weston A. Price Foundation was established in 1999. It's a nonprofit organization, and it's dedicated to restoring nutrient-dense foods to the human diet. And our focus is on education, research, and activism. They do actual science, like it's not just activism and having popular speakers come and talk at a convention, but it's they actually do science and put out a lot of work. For the chapter leader, so my job, really the only job I have is to create a food resource list. So that's what I had to do when I first took this position, and you guys all have access to that in the link that Andrea shared. And it's a website, so I will add to that as I encounter new farmers in our area. I will adjust that. That is the responsibility of a chapter leader. If you're not from Tulsa, if you're from some other area and there's not a chapter leader in your area, and you can find out by going on the Weston A. Price website. If this is something that you think interests you, please look into it, because it would look really good to have a whole lot of chapters in Oklahoma. Just think about, like, if you're a legislator and you're wanting to pass some kind of tyrannical bill about food, and somebody tells you need to go look at the Weston A. Price people in our state, and they see that there's like 15 chapter leaders in Oklahoma, they might think twice. So if you live a little bit outside of Tulsa, maybe check on doing that in your area. Another thing about our chapter, I really like it to be a time of networking, and I really love hearing from speakers. So I will schedule about maybe 6 or 8 meetups throughout the year where we have potlucks, and our potlucks are really good. They're the best, and we have good speakers. So we'll do that some more too. Okay, so that's about the chapter, and you may be wondering why it's called the Weston A. Price Foundation. And I say it so fast because I'm used to saying it. People might not even know what I say. Weston A. Price Foundation. What in the world is that? Okay. Weston A. Price was a dentist. He did some major work in the 30s and 40s. He traveled the world to discover the diet. Why were these people in these isolated areas so healthy compared to their neighbors who were not in the same state of health? So he studied isolated, non-industrialized people groups all over the world, and noted some key commonalities in their diets and also in their health. They were in fabulous health. They had straight white teeth, great bone structure, ease of childbirth, happy disposition. I mean, they were just like what we would all want. What he discovered, just their neighbors that had come in contact with a Western diet. And by that, I mean processed foods, like maybe canned foods. At that time, it'd be sugar, whatever, that we're talking about in the 30s. So it wasn't as bad as it is now, but just that change in the diet affected those people. And in his book, it'll be backwards probably. There. I highly recommend that you get this book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston A. Price. Well, it's shown right there too, but my copy looks different. The photographs in there are amazing. The comparisons between the people who had not yet been affected by modern diets. It's just amazing. And he visited, I don't remember, maybe 8, 10 different cultures, and everywhere from Africa to Scotland to Switzerland to Alaska, South Seas, just a lot of places, Australia. And so what he discovered was that the root cause of the changes that he was seeing was not related to race or geography, but it was related to the change in the food. And so in his book, he documents all of that, and you will walk away in awe, and he doesn't tell you what to do. The book isn't written as an instruction for us, really, but it is. You will walk away with a roadmap to restoring your own health and that of your children, and then the children yet to come. So, oh yeah, okay. So his findings. This book was written in the, I don't know, 30 something. I don't know, but his findings became the foundation for the Weston A. Price Foundation, which was founded in 1999. And the principles that he discovered, plus some that the foundation itself discovered after he had already passed, make up the 11 dietary principles of the Weston A. Price Foundation. And now I just want to mention that there's no such thing as a Weston A. Price diet. We don't make meal plans or tell people how much of something to eat. We're about principles, And so here are the 11 dietary principles, and I'll just read through them. This over the little graphic there is just a picture of the book. I have it here in my office, and I bring them to all of our meetups if anybody ever wants one. So the 11 dietary principles are: avoid refined and denatured foods. So that would be in processed foods, anything that's denatured. So you know, high heat oils, seed oils, canned foods. You want to have animal protein and fats. That's very much a focus of this diet, or this way of life. I shouldn't say diet. Well, it is a diet. It's just not a diet like, there's a difference. Okay. And emphasize nutrient dense food. He noticed that in all the cultures, they all ate some animal foods raw, not all, but some animal foods raw, and most plant foods were cooked. And that helps with digestion and absorbability. And he also noted lacto-fermented condiments and beverages were in all the different cultures. Soak, sprout, and ferment seeds and grains is a part of, like, you can eat grains. You know how you'll hear people say no grains or no this or that. The answer is yes, but with these preparation methods. Saturated fats, yes. Seed oils, no. Land and sea animals to balance the omegas, and salt is good for us. I should put an asterisk by that because it doesn't mean table salt. It means unrefined mineral salt. They all used animal bones, and we all do that too, don't we? And there was a big emphasis on pregnancy and growing babies. It seemed like what they were doing was looking toward that next generation. They were wanting to see their people go forward. And okay, let me see what my next slide is. Oh, let me back up a second. Sorry. So this little booklet here, if you get it, it's maybe $10. It just will give you an idea of how, like, what foods to use and give you more information. It's pretty small. One thing I want to say about Dr. Price, what he discovered is that all of the people that he studied optimized their nutrient intake through every aspect of their food, from their agricultural practices to their food selection, like what foods they ate, and also their preparation methods. So that would be like fermenting or culturing their dairy. So these are things that we can apply to our modern diets right here in Tulsa. And this is what I want you guys to know. It just takes some education and intentional choices when buying our food, along with learning traditional preparation techniques that maximize nutrient density. Okay, of course, one more thing about these groups of people was that their food was local. That was the whole deal. And we can do a lot of that too. This is something that the foundation came out with a while back. And if you can see on there, you can buy a whole lot locally. Look at all that. Look, we can buy raw milk, raw cheese, all the meat we want, all the organ meat, chicken and eggs. We can get vegetables and fruit, but we can't get them all the time. We have to eat seasonally in order to do this. People make sourdough bread that we can get. Lacto-fermented condiments are available here. All that. And then we, of course, there are some things you have to buy still. And that would be like tropical fruits and spices, and of course salt, things that are out of season. But it's a good measure of, if you want to make a challenge to yourself to see how much of your food purchases are from a local source, or if they could be, try to find a way to make them local, and try to only reserve the ones that you could not possibly get locally, that you have to go to the grocery store for or order. So, one thing about non-industrialized people, their food was local, and they had not been affected by, as Weston A. Price put it, the displacing foods of modern convenience. And so shopping with local farmers, in addition to our health, it has huge implications economically. And it really does signal to the economy what you want. You're basically voting with your wallet And I don't know about you guys. I am curious what your perception is. I feel like it has picked up over the past definitely 5 years, but I think it started before that. But I wonder what you all think as far as like the local scene. And so another thing about purchasing local is that you can get to know your farmer, and it's a good idea. I mean, I do the food resource list, and I do an initial like interview with all the farmers, but they could change their practices, or you may be looking for something in particular that I haven't asked, and it doesn't hurt to check in with them. So I do provide that, but I am not going to be checking on every farmer. Um, you'd have to do it. When would you ever not be able to let that go? You'd have to check all the time, and that's just not feasible at all. But you ought to get to know your farmers. So if you have questions, just reach out to them, and they should be very willing to talk with you. And you want to know, like, what is their philosophy? How do they approach the idea of farming? You'll hear it from some of them. Some of them are just really into their animals, and they talk about how happy their animals are, or they might talk about their soil. They might speak of their soil more than anything else, and that tells you a lot. They're there for the long term. They're not there just to make, how much can I make off this steer? They're there. Okay. First type of purchase I want to talk about is meat. When we purchase meat, it's a good idea to purchase the whole animal, which may be too big for your freezer unless it's a chicken. But if you're getting beef, you might want to split that with someone. And of course, there's all kinds of meat, deer, whatever, but let's just, what we mostly eat. A Weston A. Price or Ancestral principle is eating nose to tail. So nothing goes to waste. All the organ meats are used. We use the fat, we render it. There are multiple uses for various parts of the animal. And the I don't do this. I don't know anyone who does it, but like if you have a hide, that can also be used, and that would be a good thing. That's a very traditional thing to do, would be to use the hide for something. That's not really my specialty. Doing this, you'll get much more nutrient density out of your food, and I believe, and this is really one of the main reasons I'm part of this organization, is because this is much more respectful to the animal than the way they are processed in conventional ways. Okay, when you purchase cattle, sheep, or goats, what you want to look for is that they are raised on pasture. And let's see. Yeah, okay, because they obviously should not be cooped up in stalls eating grain. They should be out on pasture. They convert the energy from the sun into nutrient dense meat for us. So they're fabulous. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. And this is Gary Greenwood here. He has cattle, and those cows there are from our farm. They also sell milk. Gary Greenwood sells raw milk. So one thing about Weston A. Price, I mentioned before, some animal products are consumed raw. This milk is a good example. Milk, butter is a good example of raw animal products. So that's just it's a superfood. Okay. Oh, and I should mention the law in Oklahoma currently is that you have to go to the farm to make purchases. That's the law. I'm not going to say anything else about it. Okay, and then for vegetables, we have so many farmers markets. We have every little town, and Tulsa has farmers markets, and Tulsa has multiple farmers markets. So they are out there. I think when you go, you just need to verify that these foods are being grown organically. I don't know, but I get a sense with some of them that they are not. So it would help again to get to know your farmer. There are some listed on our food resource list, like Robinson Ranch. They grow vegetables, and I would think they're a trusted source. So um, you just need to do your research into their practices and find out who you trust and what your standards are. Okie dokie. Okay, another way to get, we're talking about how to get, where to get food. So we talked about getting it from the farmers market. Another great way to get food is from your friends. We all know people who have eggs, have chickens in their backyard, and there's so many people now who make sourdough bread or ferments or other things. So trading around with your friends is really a nice way to build community. And it also takes the power out of the hands of corporations, and it's much better for the for every step along the way: the environment, the animals, the economy, friendships, everything. So these foods are accessible. They are in our community, and it's just a matter of making the effort to get them, but they are there. So again, we have animals on pasture, organic vegetables, raw milk, local homemade goods, and using stores, hopefully reputable, conscientious stores for things that cannot be local. Okay, let's go into the kitchen, and we're going to talk about, now that we've found these resources, we're going to talk about how to make them even better. So let's go into the kitchen. Okay, remember, this is where you're going to learn to stretch your dollar. We talked before about eating nose to tail. With chicken, for example, I used to think I was, well, I'll just admit to you guys, I used to buy bags of Tyson boneless, skinless chicken breast. That's what I did for probably the first several years of my marriage. And I've changed. Now I buy whole chickens, and they are more expensive, but here's what I do, and I get my money's worth out of them. So let's just say you buy a chicken and it costs $25. Okay, I get that chicken, bring it home, and put it in a stock pot, and I cook it, and I make meat stock. And the meat stock can be used for soups, or it can be consumed by itself, and it's delicious and very healing for the gut. It's a foundational food for the GAPS diet. Okay, so one chicken, I can get about 3, maybe 4 quarts of meat stock. Plus I still have all the chicken. So I pick the meat off of the chicken, and that is enough meat to have at least one big meal, or maybe one meal and some leftovers. And then the next thing I do is I take the bones. I don't do it right then. I usually will, I'm tired by now. I'll freeze my bones and then get them out whenever I want to make bone broth. And I'll just make some bone broth. And so I've gotten, let's say I could probably get another, maybe 3 quarts out of that. So if I get 3 quarts of meat stock, all the meat off of a chicken, and 3 quarts of bone broth, and I spend $25, I think that's a really good price. And yeah, maybe I could eat cheaper, but would I be supporting my local economy? Would I be getting the best quality? I don't think so. Also, I control what goes into this, so I use the kind of water I want to use. I use the kind of salt I want to use. If I put vegetables in, they're organic. So there's, you have a lot of control over what your family is consuming when you make it yourself. Okay, so that is meat. Oh, it's not just chicken though. It can be any kind of meat. You can do that with. Okay. Fermenting. So this is a technique that you can do to actually increase the nutrient quality of your food. And fermenting your vegetables. It was I don't know why people started doing it, if they only did it to preserve food and they just found that it was more nourishing, or why they did it. But the fact of the matter is it preserves food and increases the nutrients. And it also makes foods, it also increases digestibility. Um, so this is a way you can save money by, let's say you have a sale on, or you grow your own cabbage or other vegetables. You can preserve them. You don't have to worry about them spoiling. If you make sauerkraut, they will keep for a long time refrigerated. You don't have to go through the trouble of canning, which kills the beneficial bacteria. Remember we talked, or I mentioned denatured foods. Um, you know, to a certain extent, canning denatures the food. It kills off a lot of the enzymes, and making fermented foods preserves the food but makes it even better. This is all probiotic and increases the amount of vitamins in the food. If you can ferment food, when you buy, let's say you have a sale and you buy a whole bunch of it at once, you're going to not let it go to waste because you're preserving it this way. So, oh, I want to mention something that I forgot to say about this. There was one thing I forgot to tell you. So after I make bone broth, there's more. I take the bones and I crush them and make like a paste out of them, and I put them in little muffin shaped things and freeze them, and I give them to my dogs. I let them thaw before I give them to them, but the dogs love them. And if I don't do that, then I will take the carcass, which is by this time just depleted, and I'll put it in my compost. So I don't we hardly have any waste because most everything goes into our compost, including bones. Okay. Okay. My favorite thing in the world is culturing raw dairy. I love it. And I do classes on fermenting, making sauerkraut, and culturing raw dairy. And in my dairy, sorry if I turn my head, you can't hear. In my dairy class, I provide everybody like instructions on how to do it. And also I've gone to the store and I've priced out some of these items, and I can show you how you'll actually save money. So let's say you purchase a gallon of milk and it costs $7. From the gallon of milk, if I turn that into yogurt, I'm going to have a little bit more than 4 quarts of yogurt. And if you can compare that to store-bought yogurt, I can tell you, hold on just a second. Yogurt. So for my milk, I'm spending, oh, this is back when milk was $6. Sorry. The milk is 0.046 per ounce, and compared with store-bought, which is 0.2 cents per ounce. So $6, or that was $6 for a whole gallon versus like $4 a container of yogurt. And I did this a while back. I need to update my prices. It's $7 for a gallon of milk where I get it. And I think yogurt that I buy, because I use it for a starter, is 5 something. And that's so that equals $20. So do I want to spend $20 on yogurt, or do I want to spend $7? Obviously, I just want to spend $7. And you can make your own kefir. You can make your own creme fraiche. You can use the whey that is a byproduct in making ferments. Well, so not only are you saving money, you're starting with a raw milk product, which is already a superfood. By culturing it, you are making it more nutritious and increasing the digestibility. And cultured dairy and the fermented foods are the other staples of a GAPS diet, which is a healing diet. So those are other ways to save money. And you're not just saving money, though, you're getting a better product. Okay. So here's where we save a lot of money. When we stopped going out to eat and funding these big corporations. So yeah, if you go out to eat, you know you're going to be spending a lot of money. Man, if you go, we went out recently and it was so much more now than it used to be. I couldn't believe it. You will definitely be eating processed foods. You will most definitely be eating seed oils. The food is not going to be locally sourced, and it's going to be grown with unknown practices and questionable ingredients. You're going to be doing business with people that care more about profit than you and your health. And I will say, there is in Tulsa, you guys might know of other exceptions to this. I know of one very excellent exception to this, and that's Bone Broth Bar at 81st and Harvard. They check all the boxes, and they care. And it's more than just the food. It's more than that. It's their whole philosophy. So, but so this will, if you switch from spending your money out at restaurants to enjoying meals at home, obviously you'll save money. And instead of looking at it as, we can't go out to eat anymore, it's so expensive, you could look at it as, we get to stay home and have a far superior product than we used to. And it's so good for us. And one thing, I don't know if I have it in my notes, if I don't mention it, what I'd like to mention about purchasing food out versus making it yourself is, I guess on an energetic level, if you believe that, if you're pouring your love into your food and that transfers to your family, if they can kind of feel that love, that's awesome. Versus picking up some food that was produced in a factory and put together by people who don't even like their jobs and don't care anything about you. Which one would you choose? And I'm just trying to show you that I'm not saying it's cheaper to do this, but it's not all about money either. And there are long-term consequences to eating this type of diet here, going out and eating processed foods and stuff. It's more than just how much are you paying right now. As you know, it can lead to health issues down the line, which can cost you more in money, energy, time, and just your health in general. So I'm not trying to be a food snob. Okay, so I told you before, there's no Weston A. Price diet, but what it is, it's about sourcing and preparation methods. So we talked about how you can get local foods and you can bring them home and prepare them in ways that increase their nutritional value. A Weston A. Price diet is customizable, so you can avoid things that you don't want and get things, focus on things you want. It's based on principles, not on certain meal plans. And this is my comment, it's a celebration of the Creator's bounty with respect for all of creation and the animals and people that play a role in bringing nourishing foods to our tables. I just look at it as a collaboration between us. Even, it's okay to be a consumer. We're helping also. We're helping keep the farmers' business going, and we all work together to keep this system, this alternative system that shouldn't be the alternative. It should be the system. Keep it going. I think that might be just about it. Hold on, let's see. Oh, it's a collaboration of intentional, natural, loving beings, the animals, the farmer, and you, just playing their role and working together to nourish each other. Because the farmer, he nourishes his animals, and then you get it. So anyway, back to the beginning. I'm about done here. Just all that business about liberating you or selling you on convenience, and your power is better used elsewhere. It's just not true. Your power is, or the kitchen is a place of power, and I hope that you will be inspired to take it back. And if you need any help in doing that, if I can be of assistance in helping you locate food or learn how to do some of these techniques, I'll be happy to do that. You can ask questions here, or we can talk later, whatever you prefer. I think that's about it. It is. And
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Great job, Joanna. That was fantastic information. For those of you who are on live, if you have any questions, I think you can raise your hand if you want to come on video and ask Joanna questions. If you want to ask in the Q&A, you can just type in the chat, rather, not the Q&A, the chat. Let's just check here. Yep. I had issues with the chat earlier, so apologies for that. So drop your questions in there. Joanna, I'm going to ask you a question. What is the number one question you get asked when people who are eating like a conventional diet, and like the money issue is a big deal for people when they're switching over initially? How would you advise people who were looking to shift over to a more ancestral traditional diet? What would be the first steps
Yeah.
to take?
I would talk to them about the long-term ramifications of continuing with a standard American diet, that it may be cheaper when you check out at Walmart, but it's going to cost you in the long run. And it's not just our own health, but it's the health of our economy, the health of, um, I kind of look at it as a big picture and a little picture. So you have the way the world works, and how do I want to see that play out? I want to see cities and towns just surrounded by farms and everybody thriving. I don't want to see all the farms turned into solar farms and wind turbines and having the meat produced in a lab. That would be a horrible existence. So I don't know if I really answered that question, but I guess maybe I would try not to be so hard on them by telling them what I just told you. But I think I would say that it's not just about the money you spend right now. It's you've got to put the right kind of foods into your body, or you will have trouble down the road. The food system has changed. We the foods that we are eating right now are worse than they were when we were kids, which is worse than they were when our parents were kids. It just keeps getting worse out there in the conventional food arena. And we just can't survive like this. It's destroying health.
Yeah. So kind of that pay now or pay later thing.
Yep.
Okay, so for somebody brand new who's understanding, okay, I realize that I need to make a shift, and there's so much information on, Dr. Google and all the other mainstream sources of information. What would be like one or two things that someone brand new to wanting to change their health through changing their diet, through changing their food?
Mhm.
Well, if you could suggest one or two things,
Yeah.
what would
What
be the things that they could do?
I would increase fat intake, and I would make sure that the fat was coming from grass-fed animals. When I say fat, I should have said animal fat intake. Butter is one of the best things a person can eat. So just increase your butter, have some pastured eggs, and that's a great thing to do to start. Pastured eggs cooked in butter. There's a lot of really easy changes you can do. If you try to do them all at once, it might be overwhelming, but I was thinking about, well, if I make eggs, I'm going to put salt on it. Go ahead and just, change your salt. Get rid of that iodized stuff and replace it with some just, unrefined mineral salt. And just make that little change. And then, but as far as like the diet, just for health reasons, I would say increase fat.
Awesome. I'm putting the links to the Weston A. Price Foundation in the chat, as well as the link to your website. Tell us what we'll find on your website. Do you have the food resource list that we already shared? What else
Yeah.
can we find there?
Well, that's my personal website that kind of turned into the Weston A. Price Tulsa chapter website. So you might find some, I think I might have hidden the pages, some recipes for me. Oh, one thing on the where the food resource list is, I have another tab of our meetings. If you want to see what kind of meetups we've had, I always put them there. So you can get an idea if it's something that you're interested in attending. Come, it's not, we don't usually have a whole lot of people. One time we had like 40 people. A few times we have more like 10. That's probably more the norm. One thing I do want to say about the Weston A. Price website, you can go there, and there there are so many resources there. They have a search bar. Any question you have about any particular nutrient, or I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, an illness or whatever, put it in the search bar. I bet you'll find the answer. Also, on their website is a place to join the Weston A. Price Foundation, and the membership is only like $40. But the work that they do is so important for us right now. They do real science, real advocacy, and their work is just solid. They are the standard as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, and they were banned on social media for a while, so
Yeah,
that tells me something about them. So speaking their truth.
they have a podcast. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or whatever it's called. It's called the Wise Traditions Podcast, and they come out every Monday, and they're pretty short, like 30, 40 minutes, and you can just go and listen to those. They're just really, really good. Lots of diverse topics, not just to do with food, but a lot of like alternative therapies, things like a lot of different ideas. I think a lot of people who are in your community will be very interested to hear a lot of the different topics discussed there.
Yep, I agree. Okay, I was filming some of that too, so we were doing a little bit of multitasking. Okay, so we don't have any other questions on here. Martha says, outstanding presentation, Joanna. So well done. Thank you. I agree to that sentiment. This is amazing. So, for those of you who are watching either live or on the replay, your invitation is to share our link to our school community. You just go to the About tab in the school Holistic Oklahoma, and I'll actually put the link here real quick, just so because it's a new platform, right? And so navigating the new space can sometimes be challenging. So I'm dropping a link in the chat that you can copy and paste and share with any of your friends that would like to see the replay. If you missed this live presentation, the replay will be up tomorrow. So any final closing words, Joanna, because you shared so many incredible resources that are really going to help a lot of people get started here.
Yes, I do. I hope that what I said doesn't come across as judgy. Um, we all start, like, if it speaks to you and you want to do it, don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. There's no judgment. There's also no perfect way to do this. There's no such thing as perfect when it comes to this topic. It's not even achievable. There's no such thing. So any any step in that direction, in the direction you want to go, is progress. And so I would just say take the first step. And if you want any help, I can help you get started. But I mean, just doing a little something is perfect. I started with raw milk.
That's great. Yeah, there is no perfect. Just start with one thing and see what you notice, how you feel. And if you do take something from this webinar tonight, and you make that change, we would love to know, share it in the community. Thank you so much, Joanna, for spending your valuable time with us to share tonight. Carrie says, thank you, Joanna. Love the work you are doing. We definitely appreciate it. And that's the end of our webinar tonight, and we'll put the replay up tomorrow. And that'll be available in the classroom indefinitely. Have a great night, y'all.